What's up, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of Big Men on Basketball. We are here, as always, on the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube channel. It is 4 o'clock, and you know what that means. Another day, another show, another week, another dollar. It is Christmas week. Here. Big week for us, for all of us here. Happy holidays to you. Before we do that, though, I have something to tell you. Guess what? Nadu's back on the fucking horse. Couple of winners over the weekend. I'm excited to get into some hoops tonight. This card is very low level, I have to admit, but that doesn't mean you can't make money. You can make money on this card. We've got some NFL tonight. I'll tell you what, 8, 9, 10 weeks ago, maybe this had been a good game. I don't know about tonight, though. There is a bowl game going as well. Should be a good show. As always, hit that like button. Make sure if you're not subscribed to this channel, you are. There are over 155,000 of you that are subscribed. Do me a favor and subscribe now if you're new. We got a guest for today, and it's been a long time since I've seen this lady on camera. It's Kelly in Vegas. Kelly in Vegas, how you doing?
Hey, doing pretty good. Apologize. I think my gallivanting around the country finally caught up with me. I cannot breathe out of the left side of my face. So if I sound terrible, that's kind of funny because I kind of deserve that. I made fun of you for sounding raspier than Megan and I on the Saturday morning college basketball
Right.
spaces.
That's a good
And
call
now
by
here
you.
I
Yeah.
am sounding even worse than I normally do. Good pick by you with that Toledo first half
Thank you.
over. Didn't even have to sweat it. I actually wasn't even paying attention to what time it had tipped off. I looked and I was like, damn, well, that was easy, almost as easy as the Zags over that we discussed on the
That was a good
show.
one by you. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, listen, that's why I like doing those spaces and like hanging out with like minded people because sometimes you're going to find those nuggets that maybe you normally wouldn't have bet or you're going to learn a little bit of something. And that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to share, find some winners, and hopefully we all make a nice little bag of cash.
No, that's what it all comes down to. And you've been doing this a long time. We've all been doing this a long time. Kelly, I remember we used to do content many years ago. I'm not going to say where. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but
I don't
you've
even
been
think they exist anymore. So I think you can
no,
say it.
no, yeah, it was a while. It was offshore. You and I, we would, were kind of like, in a way, all of us at one point were like just kind of on our own, and we would get calls to, hey, come do videos, come do this, come do that, and we did it through Drew Martin, I believe, who's a
Yeah.
good dude, and I know
Drew,
you still talk
I
to him
still hang out
today.
with Drew on a very regular basis. He and I do a
Yeah.
couple shows together. Really, really sharp guy. He's really great at the college basketball totals too.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And I remember I said to you before the show, I was a lot fatter back then, but I still remember you've been in so many things. I know over the years, you have these issues with people, but I really shout out to you for your success. It's not easy to do what you've done, and you know that. This is a tough business. This is a maligned business. It's for a long time been difficult. It's very watered down now. But, I always say this, if you're able to last doing it, let's say over a decade like you have, you're doing something right. And shout out to you. You're killing it. And I want to always bring on people, as you said, that are like-minded, know what they're doing. I'll ask you first, are you in on this bowl game tonight? Marshall, UConn. Not a great.
No, I'm not, but I laugh. So, my Mondays are basically my Mondays, my Tuesdays, my Wednesdays. Like I'm in these four walls in this office, right? Like I'm breaking
Mhm.
down the games. I'm looking for winners. I'm trying to do that. And obviously, like with college basketball, things are going to change. But typically with like NFL and college football, most of my bets are made by Tuesday night. So I'm in here,
Right.
I'm early, I'm ready to go. So I laughed today when I saw that Big Ev had put out UConn plus 12 and the under. And I'm like, that TV doesn't have anything on it. Like I need some background noise this morning. And I did take the 12 with UConn with them, just more fun money. And you guys will see that. Like the things that I tweet out and the things that you see me actually put out on my own accord, I put out with my hard-earned money. They're probably 2 or 3 unit bets, depending on what the sport is. But yeah, like every once in a while, you just want something on. It's a Monday afternoon. There's nothing else going on besides me sitting at this desk talking to you. So throw it on in the background. And so far, it was an unmitigated disaster. It was like 14-0. Marshall was in the red zone. Now 21-0, about to go to half. Is what it is. UConn definitely excited for that team to reach a bowl game, but maybe got a little overhyped going in this one.
Well, I think sometimes with excitement, right? I think it's very palpable in these kind of games. Obviously, you use things like that to work for you. But I'll tell you what, there were a couple teams over the weekend. North Texas was a prime example. I mean, their coach leaves. You're thinking maybe they'll be a little bit maligned. They came out and hung right with Boise. You see it today. Just because, though, you're excited, though, sometimes to me, I don't know if that always translates. Sometimes you're just not that good, right?
Well, and that was where I got bit. So I tweeted out Friday night, Florida. I had 10.5. Megan and I gave it out on Money Shots. We do the show right before you do this show in the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube channel. And she's like, whoa, 10.5. I was like, Megan, listen, this Miller kid's not as bad as, everybody's probably thinking he's going to be. No AR-15. Yeah, some opt-outs. Yeah, some injuries. I was dead wrong. Like, I got a nice CLV trophy and everything. And Billy Napier got smacked in the mouth. There's now a GoFundMe because they're trying to get him fired in Gainesville. And I'm like, everybody pump the brakes. But trying to sift through this bowl season has been just atrocious.
No, it's not easy to do. This is a very difficult thing, especially I've talked about it with college basketball. Just there are certain times of the year where it is very volatile, right? You look at this week again. I had some kid come in here last week and say it doesn't matter that they're taking finals and there's no one around. It totally matters. These kids
have you not been to college, man?
Yeah,
It does matter. It's a stressful week. You've still got practice. Your girlfriend's bugging you to go home for Christmas break, or your mom's guilting you because you're not. Whatever the reason is, I mean. We have to remember we're betting on 20-year-old kids at the end of the day. And well, at least when it comes to college basketball and college football. But I do think it's important. You sift through, you show some discipline. You asked me to come on the show last week. I hadn't looked at the Monday card yet. I get in this morning. I'm like, oh God, this is what I got to do a show on. And then, of course, I look at the Tuesday card and it's far more gorgeous. Yeah. But it is what it is. Like, you can go through, you find your conferences that you excel in, whether that's college football or college basketball. Obviously, college basketball has 300 plus teams. But I always joke with Megan about her Horizon League picks. But if you know the Horizon League, more props to you, because you're going to be able to find an advantage that I don't have. I've always been such a Power 5 school type of girl. And every once in a while you can find, especially in college basketball, you're going to focus on the Big East and like some of those, the A10 schools, of course. But for the most part, I'm not looking at the Summit League. Like, I'm not looking at the Missouri Valley Conference. Like, it is so funny because even just the other day, my dad goes, how's Wichita State doing? I'm like, man, I used to follow Wichita State when Greg was there, like, religiously. They were such a moneymaker, and they've just fallen off for me. So I haven't really focused. I'm traditionally just trying to say, okay, I've got so many hours of the day to devote to this. I'm going to stick with what I know. And so when there's not those big name schools playing each other, I kind of fall off. I'm not going to lie.
You have to do that, though. You have to have some sort of balance. There's not enough time in the day to get to all these different things. I mean, you have people come in here and say, hey, what do you like in hockey? I don't watch hockey. I have fun. I want to bet it once in a while. I don't bet
if you're at the game. Yeah, I mean, if you're at the game, you want some action, you go to buddy's house and he's like, hey, I got the over, and you want to cheer for him to get, sure. I cannot even begin to fathom hockey. And I think the biggest thing is, and you mentioned this, you and I working together, there's been several overlaps over the years in this world. And that's the beauty of it. We have friends that handicap hockey. Right. We have people that we trust. That, for me, I hate baseball. I hate it. It is a grind for me. I have read several books. I have sat there with like the best of the best. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to learn how to handicap baseball. I need the summer off to get ready for college football. But I'm not saying I don't bet baseball. I've got tons of friends that do. You got a winner coming my way, I'll take it. I'll look into it on my own accord. I'm not going to blame you if it loses. But I think that's kind of the beauty of figuring out which sports you're good at, which sports you can win at, and then just sticking to those.
100% right. And you always, I think there's a lot of people that I've noticed in this chat that I think are really putting a step forward with gambling, right? This is not an easy thing to do, but if you're going to be wagering your own money, it's very important that you educate yourself. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to just be a professional at everything. It's not easy to do. Take time, understand what you're doing. If someone gives you a pick, go research it. Don't just, I don't have a golden elixir, neither do you. But in the end, I think when you come into, communities like this, it's helpful for, I think, a lot of people. I do want to give a shout out. You mentioned Florida, Oregon State. Shout out Rico Bosco. Nice winner with Oregon State, pal. I missed that. I had to tail. Okay. And I bet it, and it rolled.
I wish I would have known that Rico was on the other side, and maybe I would have taken a second look at it. I had just looked at it and I'm like, this line is getting out of control at this point. Like, I'm calling people from Ohio State, asking about this Miller kid, going, all right, what do I need to know about him? Like, I got connects in Gainesville. My dad lives right outside there. I'm texting people like, okay, what do we got here? What's really going on? And, I drank the Kool-Aid and it was dead wrong. But yeah, shout out to Rico. He and I talk quite often, but I missed that one.
What a fall from grace for Florida. I mean, at one point, I mean, remember they beat Utah? What is that, first game of the season? And then it was just, I heard Anthony Richard, Heisman Trophy. This
Oh, I
kid's,
laughed. I faded them literally the next week. I was like, everybody pump the brakes.
yeah.
We got to relax here. And I think we see that with a lot of teams is that the biggest thing in sports gambling that I love is fading those overreactions, right? And
You,
that's basically
you
why
have
it's
to.
like 10 and a half. Like
Mhm.
this line should be 7.5. And I was wrong. But you're going to see it in the NBA where we see guys start to sit out middle of the season because, they're ready to make a playoff run in freaking January. And next thing you know, the line moves 5 points. Well, that player may only be worth 3.5 and
And
you can
that's the thing.
capitalize.
I've tried to talk to people whether like college is different. Okay. I think college is very all about schematics and who's playing and the type of defense and all that kind of thing. When it comes to the NFL, the NBA, and you know this because you're around these types of people. For instance, last night, okay, I was out. Okay. I said to this kid, he's like, what do you like in NBA? I said, I like the Wizards tonight. He said, oh, Bradley Beal might not play. Oh, this. I said, I don't care who's playing. That doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me. These players aren't worth what you think they're worth. And to me, I'm strictly looking at who's betting these games and what the percentages are looking like. If there's something that jumps out to me, I'm playing it. I don't care who's playing. I don't look at any of that. I don't care about that. It
Well,
doesn't
for the
matter.
most part, it's already built in the line, unless you
Exactly.
somehow get the information before the bookmakers do, which is so, so rare. Like
Right.
every once in a while, I'll get a really solid text from like my boy JD. He's like, hey, this quarterback's opting out. Last year was the Western Michigan game. I got Western Michigan +7 and basically closed Western Michigan -7, and they blew them out of the water. When you get information like that before the rest of the world, like sure. But otherwise, 3-4 minutes after it gets tweeted, the line makers know they've
Right.
already adjusted. And now here we are. What advantage do you have?
They're also probably like a half hour ahead of you anyway. So, I mean,
Sometimes.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's again, all this stuff is cooked in. We all know that. I will say one thing. You mentioned recency bias. You look at tonight, NFL, prime example. Do we actually, and do you actually think, does anyone watching this actually think that one half of football is the defining moment of Baker Mayfield's career? Because as you and I know, Baker Mayfield is not a good quarterback. Okay, and he's struggled at a lot of different points in his career. It's not like they have a great group of playmakers there. This is a bad football team. Maybe they'll take what they did last week and find a way to win a game. But I think in essence, you're going to see a lot of people come in and say, wow, look how he played last week. I can get them at a full touchdown here in Green Bay. Remember, Green Bay's not great, but remember, they're off a bye. They still have Aaron Rodgers, okay? I think this is one of those slap you in the fucking head games and say, you know what? We got all you simps to take Baker. He ain't that good, and you should have known it, and you did it anyway.
Do
That's
you,
what
do
I
you
always
think
think.
that loss to the Raiders was more on the Raiders defense or more on Baker? Because let's watch this Raiders team. I've watched this Raiders
They
team
stink.
all year long. They are the kings of second half collapse. Like
Right.
they have lost games that they basically have all but been gifted a winner. And so I'm going to agree with you here. I'm too big of a wuss to take the Packers -7.5 at this point. I think it looks so easy to tease them though. And I'm looking
Mhm.
at I've got a really nice teaser opportunity this week. Now the Eagles. Keep in mind, there's a little asterisk, lots of rumors about Jalen Hurts rolling around there. But if you can get the Eagles over a touchdown in a divisional game, and of course, if he's playing, keep an eye there. That was one of the kind of spots that I was looking at to play this. But I think this is almost like a no-brainer under. Seriously, like this is
Well,
a Packers team off a bye. I
mhm.
don't really trust Aaron's full offensive scheme, right? They've settled for so many field goals this year. It's been absolutely excruciating. And Che just said on Money Shots, he goes, yeah, I would take over 3.5 field goals tonight, but I don't trust Mason Crosby to make, 3 himself. I'm like, you're so right. The other side, the Rams defense, still really solid unit. They have been all year long. And that's really been the only reason why this team has any semblance of an NFL team. I don't trust Baker to throw 2 touchdowns late in the fourth quarter again. Absolutely not.
This also never got to 42, so I don't really worry that much about key numbers here. You're right. That Raider defense sucks. I mean, I can't remember the last time they were in the top, let's even say 20 at passing defense. They're just a dreadful team. We can also use what happened yesterday. Look, that wasn't on. That wasn't the Raiders that did anything.
No,
That was
but
an
the
idiotic.
Raiders had a lead at
Right.
half, and they just didn't score in the second half until the very last play of the game, basically.
Right. So what I think essentially what I'm saying is I look at Baker Mayfield and say, wow, cool. That was a good half or let's say quarter that you played. Now do it again, do it again, do it again. I mean, it's just not something that I buy into long term. That
I haven't seen that from Baker throughout his career.
Yeah.
I've seen so many moments of Baker greatness, like one awesome drive, one immaculate throw. I just haven't seen him do it over the course of multiple games. And if I don't have faith in you, I can't get to the window with you.
No, 100% agree. This, as Kelly said, has moved to 77.5 on Barstool Sportsbook. That is a huge move. Okay. That 7 number, that's the most common number in football. That's a huge move to go up to 7.5. This is screaming to me double-digit win for the Packers off a bye. I want to get into now, Kelly, you said you don't like this sort of card tonight, and I get it. There is no one there. The best game on this card tonight, if I'm being honest, is South Dakota State or Roberts.
Oh, wow. That's the best game to you?
I think if I'm really, what, Siena, St. Bonaventure?
Yeah,
it's a rough.
Siena, St. Bonnie's.
Yeah, there's no, there's not even a high level, decent mid-major game. This is bottom of the barrel stuff, okay? But what I'm going to do is, as I like to do, I'm going to turn Rain Man on a little bit and try to educate you on, I think, some bad spots here. Okay, first of which, Stonehill College is playing tonight, okay? They're in Rhode Island. This is a horrible spot for Bradley. Okay? Bradley shouldn't be laying this kind of number, I don't think, to anybody. Throw in the fact that Bradley's off a game against Arkansas. Very tough game. That's a tough basketball team to go play against over the weekend. Now you got Stonehill coming in. I have 2 or 3 things that I look for when I'm backing a big dog. Do they make threes? Stonehill, yes.
Ooh.
They make threes. Do they make free throws? Yes. They shoot almost 80%. This is also a Bradley team that has had major problems with turnovers. It's not essentially a team that can just put the ball in the hoop like you should be able to. They're not better than this team by 17 points. They just aren't. Throw in the fact that if you look at Stonehill against, and I'm talking about bottom 150, I'm not talking about, Providence or UConn or teams like that, but against teams that, kind of are similarly on their level, they don't get blown out. This reminds me of a Monday night sleepy spot for Bradley. Troy, Arkansas, a couple weeks ago. I bet that. I was up in the office. Troy hung around. I think it lost by 13. They were getting 17. I think Stonehill hangs around here. I think it's too many points. I know a lot of people are going to know who the hell Stonehill is. They're a first-year team in Division I. I think they have some things that I want to look for when I'm backing a dog. And this is a tough spot for Bradley, 2 days off a game against Arkansas. So
that's exactly what I was just looking at. Just from somebody, I just joked, I don't pay attention to the Missouri Valley Conference anymore. But that's the first thing I looked at. When I really like using KenPom Plus. I pay the little extra juice just because I like to be able to manipulate the data how I see fit. And you're right, this Bradley team, the only team they've blown out all year is Merrimack. By all means, I take that back. Wisconsin Parkside, game 1. But that hard-fought game off Arkansas is got to kind of give you like a little bit of feeling, right? Like, okay, you got 1 or 2 options. You can either take your anger out on a not a great team named Stonehill, or you can just lose that game twice. And I don't mean they're going to lose the game outright, but sometimes it's really hard. As I mentioned, we're bet on 20-year-old kids. Like, you just get your ass beat by Arkansas, and now you got to get up and play a team named Stonehill. Like, how much do you really care?
Yeah, and you don't just have to win here. You have to win by 20, essentially. Okay, so that's a lot of things to do here. Throw in, you mentioned Merrimack. That is a game where Merrimack didn't have Jordan Minor, their best player, and
very good point.
One of the best players in that conference. I just think this is a team that, and I can't lie. I took Stonehill against Providence. I grabbed 24 there, and they pushed. I thought it was a good spot. Ed Cooley went to Stonehill. I just thought maybe he'd kind of ease up, and he did. They just couldn't score enough points. But again, this team is kind of checking the boxes of what I want to back when I take an underdog. And again, 2 days off a hard-fought game against a top 10 team. I just think you kind of have a low-end kind of performance here. Maybe they win like 73-60, something like that, and they come in the back door. I know this one's not going to be very appetizing to a lot of people. Southern Indiana should not be laying this kind of number to anyone. They just shouldn't. I don't care if it's IUPUI, who you could make the case is the worst team in America. This is not a good basketball team, Southern Indiana. This is a group lost to Chicago State by double digits. They also lost to Western Illinois by double digits almost. This is, again, just a number that I had too high. Southern Indiana, again, is going to go up and down. They want to play fast. And IUPUI may not score 50. But I've noticed they're a little bit better this year. I'm not saying that I'm betting this game, but it jumps out to me as a bit too many points. I've seen the number come down a little bit. As you know, whenever I see a game, okay, I imagine in my head, okay, what would I put the number at? That's what I like about KenPom. They don't put the number necessarily in the game. I just kind of figured out myself. If it's too high, I'd put this number at like 14. It's too high. I think IUPUI is being graded like they are last year. I don't think they're very good, but I think they're a little bit better. So that's one to keep an eye on. Again, I was told many years ago by probably the best game I've ever been around in my life, you shouldn't bet money on bad teams, okay? And sometimes you're going to have to do that on cards like this.
No, listen,
just throwing that out.
I literally just said this to Megan on Money Shots like an hour ago. Sometimes you realize those teams that you make money with, and you realize those teams that are just not good for you, right? The New York Jets. I haven't bet the New York Jets for like 3 seasons. The one time I bet the New York Jets this year, what do you think happened? Fumble 6. Like there are just teams, and sometimes I preach a lot of discipline because I think, you know how like sometimes when people want to remind themselves, they say it out loud, whether it's like relationship advice or money advice. Like that's me. When I reiterate this stuff, I'm not standing on my pulpit being like, I'm smarter than you. It's because I too have had really bad issues with money management, with being more disciplined, with really trying to narrow down a card. And so the only way that I can reiterate that to other people is to share my experience. So for me, I do have 2 games I played tonight, Jeff, but neither one of them are my plays. I'm going to share them with everybody just because I do agree with them. But when it comes to a card like this, like it's okay to pass. Like you said, we got an NFL game tonight. I think there's more value on the NBA slate tonight than there is in college basketball.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned kind of sharing your, kind of experiences because you've been around this long time. I always relate it to when I always share what I've done. I relate it to Rounders. If you've ever seen that scene when Kanish essentially tells Michael McDermott, like, I'm trying to teach you the game and you're always worried about pipe dreams and nonsense. I've been through this shit. I know how it is to not have money for this and for that. And I have to grind to create a living for myself. And I kind of relate that to people that are just getting into this. They think it's just, we see people in here all the time. They get mad about a week or two. And it's like, look, there are gamblers. I've lost for months on end, weeks on end.
It's not a fun place to be. I can tell you that. No. But I think being honest about that and being honest with your transparency, I think the biggest problem is like, you get on Instagram and you get on Twitter and you got these guys that either manipulate their record or lie about it or fabricate, and they don't talk about their losses or they delete it or whatever it is, right? And that's where it gives a lot of guys a false sense of reality. I went 3-2 on Saturday in college basketball. Jeff, I go 3-2 every Saturday in college basketball. I'm going to be retired on a beach real soon. And I think that's the reality that people don't realize that. I go 1-0 every Sunday in NFL. I hit my best bets. Like, this year I'm 9-5-1. Sorry, on my best bets in NFL. Because to me, I've realized long-term betting 4, 5, 6 games on a Sunday, all I do is give back my money from Saturday. And then I'm pissed off at myself come Sunday night, rather be watching Yellowstone than the Sunday night game. Like, I think these are certain parameters. If you start to realize like, okay, where am I losing money? Keep a spreadsheet. I keep a spreadsheet and I literally write, here's what the number that I got is, here's what it closed at. I literally put in an emoji trophy if I've got one for the lovely closing line value that yes does matter, but yes, I still think it's bullshit because it's not fun to get 6 points better on a number and you still lose. Last year, the biggest trophy of my life was +3 on the Eagles at the Raiders, close 3-point favorite, got demolished. I'm like, cool. Let me add another trophy to my shelf.
Well, in the end, Kelly, you can go to the book and say, hey, I got CLV. And they'll say, well, did you win? No.
You didn't win. So I agree. At the end of the day, we literally want to all have the same thing happen. We want to cash tickets. But do you know what? The bookmakers have to take action on every single game. You don't. And once you realize that, and yeah, I get it. If you're betting $5 parlays and you're throwing $5 on a side or on an under, whatever, then I'm not here to preach to you. But if you're throwing around nickels and dimes on a daily basis and you want to make money doing this, you got to take emotion out of it. You've got to take your logic out of it. And you've got to be able to separate yourself from that money prior to making that wager. You have to set yourself up knowing that that money is all but gone. Once you hit that submit button, and then When the dust settles at the end of the day, let's see where you land. But if you keep that spreadsheet and you write down, hey, this was a bad beat on the Jets, fumble 6, I was covering the entire game. What are you going to do? Or, hey, look at this Oklahoma plus a touchdown versus Texas bet, which was the worst bet I made in college football all year long. They got blown out. I just wrote in all capital letters, worst bet of the college football season, because that's exactly what it was. And if you go through at the end of the year and you highlight and you figure out which bets you made that were good, which bets you made that were bad, maybe the next season that's going to keep you off of some of those bad bets. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I didn't pay attention to this reverse line movement. I didn't respect that X player was out, right?
You got to look at, and I would always tell people, if you have the time, instead of sitting on TikTok doing nonsense, go back and watch these things. Understand how these games shook out. Understand what exactly went down, because a box score is cool, but you got to know what exactly happened, because there's so many things I can find. And the best thing you could ever find is condensed highlights, right? They take a game and turn it into a 12-minute video, right? On a college, there's so many good college football bettors. You know why they're not good college football bettors? Because they go and bet it on NFL and lose. Okay, you have to.
And that's what I stopped doing to myself. Yeah. I was like, I realized when I was at Caesars in Vegas working for Bleacher Report, they had me pick one game every single Sunday. And all of a sudden I'm going, holy crap, I'm 12-5 on just that one game. Why am I not only betting that one game? Why am I getting involved with the tightest market? I get it. You want to throw together a fun parlay. You want to get together and hit some. You want to make money betting NFL? Player props. Yeah. I know guys that just crush it.
Absolutely.
The market is so fluid on those versus the tightest market on the sides, the second tightest market on the totals. Nah, find yourself a niche in there. If you want to get down some action on a game, bet a player prop.
No, you're 100% right. And I've seen a lot of people. I mean, Che does that. I mean, he essentially does it in most sports. That's a market that is incredibly untapped. You have better opportunity to just kind of highlight one or two players. Like I've talked before, I mean, when Dallas Goedert plays, his over receiving yards is a very good bet every time. He's a safety valve for Jalen Hurts. He's a great receiver, gets a lot of yak. Those kind of things that you can kind of pick up are very good. And, they're hard to keep track of. They're hard to kind of fix. If some team's killing you with a number, they're going to adjust. They're going to do things. It's more unlikely. Quickly, I want to throw one thing out. Someone's talking about Hofstra in this chat. Listen, I love Hofstra. They're not a bet right now unless you know the status of Aaron Estrada. Hofstra is very much dependent. In fact, they're probably more dependent on any team in America in running pick and roll on offense, and they're very good at doing it. And they should be able to score at will if he were playing tonight, because South Florida cannot defend the pick and roll.
No, they can't.
Right, but without Estrada, they're not an offense that I can depend on right now. You also look at, if you know that Estrada is not playing, and he may not, they're about to start their CAA conference schedule. This game essentially means nothing. You also look at South Florida. I mean, this team is a disaster on offense as well. Hofstra doesn't generally defend very well either, but you have some real issues in this game that I think when I seen this number, I thought, wow, I'm getting a Hofstra total in the 130s, but I don't think Estrada is going to play. I think that very much makes this game difficult to wager on. I feel like it could be a decent game if he were playing, but this is telling me he ain't going to play. One other one, South Dakota State, Oral Roberts mentioned that's kind of maybe the best game on the card. Summit League is very good for overs. Anyone will tell you that bets it on a regular basis. I'm sure Mid-Major Matt. Him and I've talked about that many times about Summit League overs. They just don't stop anybody in this conference. Now, this is not a vintage South Dakota State team. Their offense does not look as dynamic and as good as it usually does. But what that has a lot to do with is how their coach schedules. Eric Henderson essentially puts them in these MEAC SWAC level schedules where you're playing just back-to-backs. You're playing tough games. And I think that's going to prepare them once we get into conference play. I've noticed in MAC football, okay, look at a team, case in point, Toledo, okay? Toledo literally gave up 80 points this year at Ohio State in their non-conference schedule. And you notice a lot of MAC overs in the non-conference schedule. Once these teams in football get to conference play, you see a lot of 21-17 games because these teams come to kind of the point of they're both similar, very much the same. Same thing here with the Summit League. These teams don't defend, okay? South Dakota State, you're going to see a tick up offensively. They're going to start getting players back. And Oral Roberts is a great over team because they don't stop anybody and they have one of the best scorers in America. And they're dead set on going as fast as possible. I think this game screams over. I played it at 157. It's all the way up to, I believe, 159. And I think we see a game first 80 wins. Kelly, I'll tell you this, last 5 between these two. One of them got into the 200s. 4 of them, I believe, got into the 170s and 180s, and one got to 158. These two teams score. I think it could be a lot like Toledo Marshall over the weekend. I'm going for an over. Summit League. Rack it up.
You said you got it at what number?
157.5.
Okay, 150.
I bet this as soon as it came out last night.
Yeah, and that's kind of the hard part is, with college basketball overnights, they can get beat up, but not always, but sometimes, that in early morning. I was already looking at the Tuesday slate, just like chomping at the bit, waiting for these Tuesday lines to come out, see if there's anything that catches my eye early on. Today, I only played 2 games, Jeff, that were given to me by people that I really respect because I said, hey, got to do the show with Jeff. And the card is absolutely horrendous. I don't know anything about these small schools, and that's just me being transparent. And one of my good buddies said that he's very bullish on Charleston. Obviously, they've had a really nice schedule, 11-1 on the season. But my big concern here with them, and I did lay the 8, is that they don't really hit their outside threes that well. And then I start to look at Coastal, and I'm going, wait a minute. Now I know why he's so bullish on Charleston. It's because Coastal doesn't do very many things well at all. They don't defend worth anything. They don't steal. They don't get boards defensively. And that concerns me. So I did lay the 8 here with Charleston. Again, not my play. Don't really obviously follow the Sun Belt in college basketball or the CAA, as you mentioned. So I had to do some texting around and be like, all right, cool. Let's see if we can't find some winners tonight. Do you agree with Charleston, or do you think it's gotten a little out of control here?
Well, Charleston was a team, and I know it's funny you said, because I know early in the season, sharp people were betting Charleston every game, and they were dead right. This team's very good against the spread. And, their coach, Pat Kelsey, was at Winthrop. His goal is to play as fast as possible, up and down, top 5 possession length. They want to go up and down. Coastal has a coach, Cliff Ellis. He's been there forever. He's going to throw these goofy zones out at you, but look, I don't think they're very good this season. They really got hit over the last year or two in the transfer market. They had a kid, Devontae Jones, that was there, eventually left. They're just not very talented to me. And it doesn't surprise me that smart people are on them tonight, Coastal. I've, Kelly, over the years, done a lot with understanding the correlation between good free throw shooting in college basketball to covering the spread, okay?
Yeah.
Charleston is
I almost wore
one.
Make Your Free Throw sweatshirt today.
Yeah,
I feel like it's just I'm like beating a dead horse at this point because
it's the most important thing in college basketball. Like that, it's that simple. And you look at, again, like covering numbers. So they're 8-3 against the spread. What's the thing they do that other teams don't? Make free throws. If you're going to cover these sorts of numbers and you are not making free throws, you will not cover. Hofstra did it for years. Hofstra 2 years ago was the best ATS team in the country. You look at the correlation, they had one of the best free throw shooting in the country. So that stuff's really important, okay? And look, 8-3 is not perfect, but it's still very good against the number. If I had a team that I could back that was 8-3 every night, I would be backing them. This is a bad team, Coastal. I don't think this is a good spot for them. And yes, you kind of understand free throws is everything in this sport.
Yeah, I literally probably have lots of videos out there, me screaming at the TV for a kid to probably make a free throw.
Yeah. And I've also noticed Coastal's playing a little bit faster this year, which I don't think is a great idea due to the fact that, look, some of these teams just don't put up much in the way of transition, like walls at all. I mean, you're just essentially running up and down with layups, and that's what Charleston's going to do. What was the other game?
The other game was actually Cal State Northridge. Like, it's disgusting. Just 2-7 on the season. They have almost no semblance of an offense. They're one of the slowest teams in the country. They don't hit 3-pointers. They do get some offensive boards here and there. They actually are one of the best turnover teams in the country as in terms of blocks and steals. But, man, God, they're bad. But Idaho, the Vandals aren't any better.
Here's the thing about Idaho. I kind of figured this out. There are a couple teams in college basketball right now that, I mean, I'm going to say this. most people don't know that LIU is a school. LIU Brooklyn used to be called.
Yeah.
They could be, and I'm not kidding, they could be the worst defense I've ever seen at this level. I mean, there were like 9 minutes left yesterday against JMU. They'd given them, I think, 100 points. I mean, they're just dreadful. Idaho's not far off. I mean, New Orleans is an awful defense. North Dakota plays tonight. They're an awful defense. And Idaho's bad. I mean, Idaho is bad. Throw in the fact that, I mean, I've never had any interest in playing these types of teams on the road. I think this is a spot where people are looking at it and saying, okay, I have a bad team here, but I have a really bad team on the other side that's traveling. No interest. And I get it. I totally get it. This is an ugly one, though. You have to ask yourself, why is a 2-7 team a 4-point favorite here, 4.5-point favorite?
That's always like kind of the like fishy line, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my good friend Ariel puts out fishy lines, and this one stinks to the high heavens.
You also look at this Idaho team, they've went on the road and lost to Denver, Nebraska, Omaha, Cal Poly. Their only win was against Pacific. Now, I will say Pacific is a herky-jerky. They play no defense either. Their games are very variance-based. So that doesn't really put I don't really care much about that. Those are like those games in college football where it's a bad team against a bad team. They just don't defend. Anything can happen. But yeah, I think these are two really good spots, I think, as your guy is leading to there. That's a good one. This should not be a team that's a favorite. Okay. This kind of screams Northridge wins. And we say, oh, wow, 2-7, they won. Idaho's bad.
I will say, however, I just looked on the odds screen, Jeff, they did open -3.5. So keep in mind there, a little bit of line move.
I don't mind that, though, in this game.
No, I don't either. The line move agreed with him, and I don't disagree with that. But I also think that, a big thing is we do preach a lot is you're betting numbers, not teams. Yep. And I would hate for this game to land 4. So I had to put that little asterisk out there that this one has moved.
I will say, and I will say this to any very smart person, right? Sharp person that considers themselves the best in this business. I will tell you that I do agree with the number, not team. I think it is a little more important, though, to understand teams in this sport.
Basketball, for sure.
Because you can't just look at if a team. I've always related it to back in the day when I first got into this. I was betting a lot of soccer. True story. I was betting like lower leagues in England, and there was a guy I used to work with. I'm sure you remember him. This guy, Flash Watson. Okay, he was at a company we used to work in. He was a Premier League player at one point. He used to be in some of these lower leagues before he got started, and he would always tell me, if you see one of these teams lose their best player, they're awful. They don't have the upper echelon talent that a lot of these, like an NFL or a pro team might have. When you lose like a Hofstra, when they lose an Aaron Estrada, they go from being a solid mid-major team that can hang with groups to being real bad, where they struggle to put up 60.
Yeah.
So I think if someone's just going to say it's all by the number, I agree, but it's also part of, I do want to know who's playing, because if I know Estrada's not playing, I'm just not playing this game.
I think that makes sense, though. But there's nothing wrong with passing. Yeah. Like kind of going back to what we're talking about during bowl season. Bowl season's been a clusterfuck, literally, already. And I'm like, get me out of this nightmare. Why did they have to ruin college bowl season? Like, before we had to deal with the opt-outs and the COVID year and all the good stuff there. Now we're dealing with, offensive coordinators not coaching in the bowl game and coaches leaving. And now it's, oh, well, I'm going to declare for the draft. Oh, wait, but I'm still going to play in the bowl game. Like Coastal Carolina's quarterback. Like, I'm transferring, but don't worry, I'm still going to play in the bowl game. And it's
very weird.
How am I supposed to guess, literally, up until game time, like who is and who is not going to play? And it's a very tricky thing. But I would agree with you that yes, the information matters more than the number during certain sports.
I've said it before, and I'll just quickly. I've said before, I think it is absolutely disgraceful how some of these college, like for instance, what was it? There was a game Saturday. It was a huge high-profile game, and it was a major player. And it's like, oh, well, it's 5 minutes before the game, and he'll let us know if he's ready to go. And it's like, well, you realize, like, there's more that you have to understand that's in – and I know these college teams don't care about gambling.
Do you think that that's like a trickle-down effect from the NBA?
Of course.
Like, they see that their favorite NBA player doesn't have to play every game, so why would you?
But see, the thing about the NBA, and here's why I make the case, the NBA has a duty at this point to make it. There needs to be some sort of injury report situation because they
Yeah.
have a duty because they're taking money from sports betting companies. They have a duty as a regulated industry, and that's the good thing about regulation because it puts
Yes.
these principles in where we have these things where you have to do. College still doesn't care, right? Even though weirdly in a way, this NIL money, okay, eventually it's going to start coming from. I don't know if they're ever come from gambling companies, but
Yeah.
there's something going on where I just think there needs to be some sort of uniform, like at least 20 minutes. And again, these fucking coaches, right? I'm just going to say, this whole like, it's going to hurt our ability to maybe win the game. All due respect, dude, but you should be preparing for the guy's going to play. Like, you shouldn't be looking at, he probably isn't going to play, so we don't have to worry about him. Like, what do you, like, shouldn't matter.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I would agree. There again, it's trying to like sift through the bullshit, right? And we're kind of in this really weird transition period in college sports, all of them, in fact, and to see if coaches are telling the truth, if coaches are lying, if we're going to get accurate injury reports, if we're not. And I would agree. I think regulation is, as much as I don't like rules, I would agree that regulation for this industry is a good thing.
Yeah, because it was for many years, it was just it was a shit show. It was, look, I talk about the mafia. It was a barren wasteland of very weird people that should not be associated with this kind of stuff. They're associated with it. They're putting their hands in it. Then you got all sorts of people just doing things. You got shady people. It's just, it needs
Could you imagine? I feel like me, obviously I wouldn't have worked because I was a woman, but yeah, like could you imagine me in like the late 70s in Vegas, just like picking up the payphone, batting some sharp. I think it would have been a really fun era to live in. I'll say that much.
I think it would have been a fascinating era, and I would have related. You would probably have been there was never a made woman in the mafia, but there were several people that had some success. They kind of cozied up the mobsters, but there were one or two that kind of were their own people, and they did their own thing. They controlled people. I think you would have did well in that. But yeah, as you said, this is a clusterfuck. It's a mishigas, if you will. It is a mess. And, I think some people don't necessarily always understand that kind of stuff. They're always like, I just want bets. And it's like, well, I get it. And I'll admit, I don't mean to throw it in anyone's face. I've actually done okay with some of these bowl games. But you're right. It's really like Deion Sanders, for instance, our coworker, right? He left Jackson State, decided he was still going to coach there. And then they lose, right? I've never seen that before. Like, I've never seen coaches like take another job, but they come back and coach, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, see, it's interesting because like now, have you ever went back, Jeff, and looked at like a childhood game? Maybe I'm just like here for all the pain and suffering, but there's a few prolific games that I went back and looked at to see what the spread was. And, like the Stoops brothers leaving K-State after the Big 12 championship game before the bowl game versus Drew Brees in San Antonio. K-State was a favorite. Well, of course they were. They were supposed to win the national title. They lost to Texas A&M, and they got obliterated by Purdue. And it was such a miserable experience. That was like the quintessential. I would have been all over Purdue had this been like today in day's age. So you're right. Like, we need to use some of these like pitfalls to our advantage.
I'm just gonna say it. I remember this was a segment I used to have. Me and Donnie Rightside, we used to laugh at this type of shit. Okay, because I used to get this whole person that would come in here, and it was always around senior day in college basketball, right? And you get these people that would come in and they would justify a selection because it was senior day, right? Then you go and look at like the team. There's no seniors on the team, or it's like one guy that never plays. I remember there was a game with the Yankees, right? There was a kid that came in one of these chats and said to me, Yankees, they're honoring Derek Jeter tonight. This is going to be a huge emotional game. And I just laughed and I thought, I'm betting the other side. Tanaka's going to get shelled. Tanaka comes out, gives up 7 runs in the first inning. Again, there are these emotional things the players don't give a shit about. They never played with Derek Jeter. They don't care. They're just caring about going and playing, going out and having dinner with their wife or girlfriend, and moving to the next game. They don't care about this shit.
I literally got a text that was like, hey, the Eagles, to bet the Bears yesterday, which I already had bet, the +9, Eagles had their holiday party last night. And I'm like, You think these guys have never played hungover?
So-
I've literally heard of guys going out the night of the Super Bowl, playing cards till 5 o'clock in the freaking morning, and then having to be at, the stadium at 10 a.m. and they
Kelly,
won but didn't cover. Like, I've
Kelly,
heard
my
outlandish shit.
My hero growing up was Allen Iverson. Okay.
Yeah, I love Allen.
Allen Iverson would literally go to the Tropicana Hotel Casino, okay, back in like 2003, get drunk, probably screw hookers, and the next night would be at the Wells Fargo Center and drop 50. Okay. Chris Jones plays for the Chiefs. I think people caught him drinking a beer on the bench yesterday. Did you see that video?
I did not, but did the 85 Bears not smoke cigs and drink beers on the sideline?
You ever see Babe Ruth? Babe Ruth was the greatest baseball player ever. Okay. I'm gonna probably guarantee there were many games he was drunk, eating stuff he should. Like, it doesn't matter.
I mean, Chad Ochocinco talks about this all the time. Chad versus science. I mean, the guy eats McDonald's like 5 meals a day.
Right.
I couldn't stomach McDonald's if I had to. I would be so ill. And this guy's just like, I mean, we're talking about professional athletes here. There are certain people that are just specimens, if you will.
Also, do you really think that at the Eagles holiday party, every single person that was getting sloshed, there wasn't coaches around, they probably didn't even have alcohol, maybe a beer or something, but like, it's not like, there's not like a mixologist there whipping up stuff, and it ain't really that.
I think that there's a lot of overblown narratives. People love a good narrative. They love a good storyline. They love revenge, right? Remember how, like, you get these things, situations, and revenge is the one that keeps coming back to mind. But I always ask on this show that I do with a couple other guys I've been doing for years, how do you quantify that? And they always laugh and they're like, okay, you're the numbers nerd. And I'm like, I'm not the numbers nerd. I'm asking you, how many points is revenge worth? Nobody can tell me. If you can't tell me, that's great. We can talk about it till we're blue in the face.
I don't think, I mean, listen, I think there are spots where revenge is kind of important. I think,
sure.
Obviously, but I think there are a lot of things, like, people use the word value when they're lazy and can't, like, justify something. So they just say, oh, well, there's a lot of value here. And it's like, okay, well, what is it? What's the value?
Yeah, what's value?
And it's like, well, I don't know.
Points? Half a point, cool. 2 points?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is a revenge game. And it's like, oh, well, 3 years ago, remember when, like, I always love the people, and I've gotten shit for this because I've clowned on people for, like, the people that bring up stats. And maybe it works for them, but what on earth does a stat from 20 years ago mean to me now?
So I think the things that mean something to me are
coaches or stuff, right?
Fine. Coaches, Kirk Ferentz, right? It's been in Iowa forever.
Absolutely.
If you want to give me Kirk Ferentz over the last 150 games and you've got some stat that's 70%,
he's been there. Right.
Sure. No problem.
If you're talking about a team that's had 7 different coaches in the last 9 years with all these different players, like, if you're going to give me a military school stat, I'm in, because those teams generally are the very same teams.
Disciplined. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I'm with you. I do think it's funny.
Before we go, I got to ask you about this.
Okay.
You're a K-State person.
Okay.
It's kind of a touchy subject because, in essence, he was right. But what's up with your Bill Snyder putting out that Mike Leach died and then deleting the tweet? That was wild. Did you see that?
I didn't. Okay, so from what I've been told is that Bill does not allow anybody else but himself. He's very protective of his Twitter account. Okay. I didn't see the tweet. I only heard about it after the fact. I honestly, I don't know. I have nothing. I didn't hear anything about it on my end. I mean, Bill's old. Bill's an old guy.
I will say, though, and this is something where I think Bill, maybe he did it and he probably was a little too forward in putting it out. I do probably believe Bill Snyder knew before a lot of us.
Probably.
And I'll relate it to this. I don't know if you watch The Sopranos ever.
Yeah.
Okay, Paulie Walnuts. Okay.
Yes.
I was literally, you can go look. I literally reported that he died. I was the first person to know it. I put it out before anyone. It was literally, I was the first. And people kept coming to me, is this real? I've not seen this verified anywhere. I said, it's real. Trust me. I got it right from his brother. He told me. I know. And I guess sometimes you're the person, and Bill would probably know more than anyone. I think it's weird that we kind of doubt sometimes, like, oh, that's not true. He's just old and reported it. He probably knew. I just think it was wild that he deleted it. I would have.
Yeah, when the mob comes for you on Twitter, it's not very much fun, Jeff.
I've been there.
I think we all have. And when it happens that way, some people tend to backtrack. Some of us just push forward. And I guess Bill decided that maybe he wasn't supposed to have tweeted it, or maybe he wasn't supposed to be the one to break the news. I think you're right, though. Social media is weird. They don't want an average person breaking a news. They'd rather have it come from a trusted source. Yeah.
Even though we know they're not trusted sources generally.
I don't trust them. But I will say this. Actually, the people I probably follow the most are like the beat writers and stuff for all these schools. Yeah. Like those guys are so enthralled with these teams. Mm-hmm. When I actually believe when they tweet, unless, of course, which we know, like certain coaches lie. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? I'd lie too, probably. But I just think that it kind of becomes one of those scenarios where I do trust, those guys saying, okay, this guy didn't practice today. This guy, had tight back spasms or whatever. Like those are the type of guys I do trust, as opposed to more of the talking heads that are just there to regurgitate their own tweet of somebody else's tweet that was already put out.
Right. Before we go, I think for me, I played Stonehill plus 17 tonight. I have the over in that Oral Roberts game. But I wanted to ask you, you mentioned teasers before we go. I think in the NFL, they're very good bets. Okay. And I remember you talked about kind of things you did when you were younger, right? I remember when I first started out, I wanted to tease everything, right?
Yeah. It's so easy.
Teams. Yeah. So like you say tonight, right? I think the Packers are a great teaser. I think they win by double digits. So I'm probably going to lay it. It kind of hurts me that I could have got 6.5, 7, and now I'm playing 7.5. I think that's kind of a bad thing to do. But
well, the good news is like, so do you see what Megan does on Mondays?
I haven't. What does she do?
She does Making Money Mondays, but her favorite thing on Barstool is to move the stool.
Oh,
and
right.
I think that this is an interesting one, and this is not how I bet.
I don't mind paying 20 cents for 7 here, maybe.
I don't hate that. But because 7 is such a key number. Now, again, I'm not doing that, but what you can do is you could also find, we were just talking about hockey. We're just talking about NBA. We're just talking about college basketball. You could find another money line favorite and put it with the Packers. If
I do that a lot. And
I don't, because I don't know why. There's some great spots to do it, especially in UFC. Mm-hmm. But I don't. But I don't think the Packers lose this game tonight.
But see, like there will be times, and I think when you're betting enough money, okay, if you're betting something at 1.87, which is what, your $1.13, $1.15, even $1.20, okay. If you're betting a sizable amount of money, that's a lot of juice to like. I'd rather like take, let's say I like a game, right? That's minus 7.5, minus 110, and I take it to 6.5, and I find a bridge jumper like big team and just maybe get it from being minus 115 to plus 104. I'm doing that. Like I'm trying to eliminate juice wherever I can. But the question I have for you is, you mentioned teasers, right? NFL. I know you like that. I know you've talked about, I don't tease college football much either. Okay. If ever, actually. But like tomorrow, okay, you have bowl games, right? You have what? Eastern Michigan and San Jose State. I think there's one other one as well. Liberty Toledo. And I've talked before, I love Toledo, but I don't want to push through 0. Are you finding a college game maybe tomorrow? How are you doing? Are you just
that's kind of my big problem with teasers? And I was just like you. I was like, I'm going to tease this. And I remember my buddy Dalton in Kansas would call me and be like, I got a 10-game, 10-point teaser. And I crushed it. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like this is somebody I need to look at. I mean, we were talking like circa 2011. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, all right, let me look into it. And I started asking the guys, because back then I was at Don Best. And I'm like, hey, what do you guys think? And they're like, please listen to me. And this goes back to what we were just talking about. If there is long-term data to back it up, sign me up. And there is in the NFL. 7.5 to 1.5, 8.5 to 2.5, and then vice versa with the dogs. Low totals. Outside of that, I can't justify it. Also, with the way that college football is going during this bowl season, if you like the dog, sprinkle a little bit on the money line. I think it was Chris Felica did a whole thread on, teams that are good and teams that are bad. Money line, I don't know if I'd be laying minus $2 on a college team to just win the game. I can see situations where people think teaser spots are great. I know a lot of people teased Army in the under when I was at Army Navy, and boy, did they have to sweat that one going into overtime. They got it. Just because you want it doesn't mean that it's going to work long term. So I'm not opposed.
If you don't like laying 7.5, you don't want to buy. I feel like, to me, look, you tease it down to 1.5. I mean, you take the totals 39.5, you tease it above 45 to 45.5, and you just hope that this is, 21-17, which, that's kind of where I had it. I
Yeah,
could see
me
it
too.
being 27-17 too. I don't think laying 7 is going to be easy. I think if anything, maybe they win by 10. I just look at Baker Mayfield and I just don't think he can rectify that stuff week after week. I don't see it. By the way, someone says that was not a beer Chris Jones had.
What was it?
I guess it was a water bottle. It looked like a literally champagne bottle, like honestly.
Interesting.
Looks like something I would drink on like New Year's Eve. And I just thought it would be beer. But real quick, who do I like in Toledo Liberty? Look, I love Toledo. I think DeQuan Finn's terrific as a quarterback. I think defensively they're really good. And Liberty's dealing with, what do we know? Their coach left.
Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. And this is not the Liberty with Malik Willis. They're a good team, but they weren't kind of shut out like they were last season. I like Toledo. I feel like, though, I worry a little bit about their defense stepping up against a better offense, but I think they get it done. I like it. As far as graphics, someone's saying nice graphics. I don't know where my graphics went. I opened up the thing today and they were gone, but we'll get them back. Kelly, anything else you like? Any props here?
No props for tonight. I will comment on that Liberty Toledo game. I didn't bet this, but man, Liberty, they have just been on such a roller coaster ride, right? They were like so hot. They beat Arkansas for me. That was so awesome. Oh man. And then now it's just kind of just been this like weird sputtering thing. Like they lose to Wake Forest and they just weren't the same. Just covered 2 of their last 7. Not that Toledo's some cover powerhouse either, because they also struggled late. And I don't really know what to make of this actual matchup, right? Because you've got Liberty that we know can throw the ball downfield. They are going to make some exciting plays, but you think Toledo can keep up with them offensively, huh?
I got to tell you, I was really doing well early on with Toledo overs. I mean,
Okay.
I just felt like they were way too low. To me, when, non-conference play, they were putting totals at like 54, 55. I had them more towards like 60. I did a lot. Like one of the bowl games, I bet as soon as it came out, Michigan, for whatever reason, against good offenses, they keep putting these totals in 58, 59. They're too good offensively. They score 40 points a game. And against teams that can throw the football and have big, solid receivers, they're not great. I mean, look at Purdue. Purdue was able to move the ball with them.
Oh, don't even bring that game up. I am still pissed off at Harbaugh for that. And then Jeff Brom's field goal kicking ass. Bet them plus 6.5 versus Megan making money's LSU Tigers. I was like, oh, I love Purdue in this spot. This is going to be a great spot. Next thing you know, Brom's gone. O'Connell's gone. I'm like, all right, I quit. That's the biggest loser of the bowl season. And luckily I didn't give it out to anybody yet because here we are.
I think for me, I have to kind of stick with things that I'm aware of. And as you said, Liberty can throw the football down the field. Toledo, again, play very well, solidly defensively against, Akron and Kent State.
One of the good questions is Finn playing?
That's something I'd have to verify. I'd have to look. He had, half the season he did not play.
Yeah.
Their backup played pretty well, all things considered. They're a team that obviously that's something I want to know. But I feel like he's capable at this point. This is not some kid coming in and just hasn't played. He has had some good experience this year so far. So I don't know if it matters completely to me. 53.5 is low enough. Where is this game?
Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, perfect. So no weather issues here.
No. It's going to be, unseasonably cold. They're going to play at FAU Stadium. It'll be fine. For those 2 teams, that's going to be like a tropical vacation.
Yeah. And again, this is boring. He says, well, yeah, again, sometimes just educating people on what you shouldn't do in gambling and maybe trying to teach you something. Maybe sometimes
you want me to be less boring? I can be less boring.
Maybe
I definitely
in every game would be better, which we're not going to do. I don't do that.
Could you imagine going through this entire basketball card? It'd be excruciatingly painful.
Yeah. And it's just
that to me is just as boring. Some of these teams.
I think this is one of the better gambling things that I've ever seen. I think people will look at this and say, look, my goal is to educate. Again, I'm trying to teach you something, right? Something that I've learned. I've had a lot of bad nights doing this, man. It's not easy.
Bad weeks, bad months. Jeff, the best education I got, I went to college for 5 years. The best education I got was in Las Vegas, hanging out with some of the brightest bookmakers in the world, guys that were former bookmakers that had started their own business and, doing other things and teaching me how to actually handicap games from a mathematical perspective. The girl who failed college algebra 3 times all of a sudden loved math. Like, what a shocker, I know. But I think that education was the most valuable one I received. And to take it back, to be a sponge, to absorb it all. Every day I get a message. Hey, Kel, what do I need to do to get in this industry? I said, find somebody who's going to teach you. If you can get somebody to teach you what I've been taught, the information's invaluable.
You know, Kelly, I've in the last year plus doing a show about crime, I've interviewed gangsters, people that have been to prison for 30 years, judges, FBI agents, DEA agents, all sorts of people that have been shot by drug cartels, all sorts of people. The most interesting interview I've done, which correlated everything that I've worked on my entire career, I interviewed a guy called John Murgis. I'm sure you know John Murgis.
I'm going to dinner with John in about 2 hours.
Okay, so he'll tell you.
I swear to you, that's a very weird coincidence.
I believe it.
But go ahead.
John is a guy that literally was a bookmaker for the Chicago outfit, okay? His grandfather knew Tony Spilotro, a guy they made a feature film about. It's one of the most powerful movies ever created, Casino. And he literally was a bookmaker for years. He's a gambler. He's a guy that's lived that life for years. I had an interview with him. I think it's one of the best interviews I've done. It's just a fascinating look into a life that very few live. And that kind of stuff, you know, being by bookmaker. Jimmy Vaccaro, prime example, right? How many things you think Jimmy's seen over the years?
Oh, my God. Jimmy has the best stories. I mean, Chris Andrews, Tony Miller, Jay Cornigan, all those guys have, every single one of them have been an integral part of my success to some degree, right? I always had so many questions and I always received some sort of an answer, right? It might not always been the answer I wanted, but like, here, let me get back to you, kid. Let me help you out here. Let me tell you what I think. And, you know, when you spend years and years and years in Vegas behind that counter, you learn everything that there is to know. And that's what those guys have. And so I can't even imagine. I mean, remember why Jimmy got fired from the Mirage? Because he took his stand against, you know, the corporate side of things and said, nah, we're putting this bet up. We're going to take it because that's what we do. And cost him his job. But I still think he's a fucking legend for it.
Listen, common sense anymore is not, that's why I think for me, maybe sometimes I struggle in this business because I am not just going to come here and tell you what you want to hear. There are things that I just don't agree with. And I don't, you know, I think Jimmy, people like that, you know, they're the people that we kind of lost in this country. We don't really have those types of people anymore. And look, I'll relate it to you. I mean, you've kind of done your own thing. You know, it's not easy doing this. You know, you mentioned Twitter, that kind of shit. I've gotten in trouble for doing that. I don't look like the status quo. Okay. And that's why I love Barstool, because Dave Portnoy has given me multiple opportunities to have success. And most companies weren't going to do that. I'm not going to work for a big company. It's never going to happen. They won't.
I didn't think that I was going to either. And it kind of fell in my lap, and I'm glad that it didn't work out. But I do think that at the end of the day, that is the beauty of Barstool, right? Like right before the show, I was on the call. My agent called, "Hey, Cal, just want to call and wish your family a Merry Christmas. Like, I'm going to be off the radar. Tell me what's going on at Barstool." And I'm like, "It's great." And he goes, "I know, I haven't heard from you." I'm like, "Yeah," because you only hear from your agent whenever like you're pissed off or something's not going right at work. And he's like, "What's your biggest complaint about Barstool?" And I go, "Oh, I'm far too organized for this company." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I go, "That's the thing is like, I am like, if you literally saw this, you would die laughing. This is my by the hour schedule, color coded. I am a freaking lunatic when it comes to notes. Like,
look, I got them all.
Yeah, that's me. I write them down old school. Like
that's what I do.
And it is funny because Barstool, like we got a Slack channel and you got Google calendar. And I'm like, can somebody just text? I just need like one email a day and like, let me do my thing. And it is funny because there is like the opposite of anywhere I ever worked. I'm not punching a clock. I'm not checking in with a superior. I just get to be myself, do my shows, put out my games, try to do TikTok, which I'm absolutely horrific at. And, you know, like I'll do the things I'm asked of, like, "Hey, kid, maybe do a TikTok every once in a while." Okay, fine. I suck at it, and it almost makes it funnier because it is what it is. But it's the best place I've ever worked, and I'm just having a fucking blast, man.
I remember one of the first Pick Centers I ever did. Someone said to me, I didn't have any like notepads. I had no computer, nothing. I just went in, and someone said to me, they go, "Where's your computer?" I said, "I don't need a computer."
Yeah.
They go, "We're talking about," I said, I have it up here. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, and
Well,
it's like, I think for me, like, I like writing, but I never thought, like, in a million years, you know what the most viewed video I've ever put out was on Barstool? It was this stupid video where I was at the bar and I was like lip syncing a song. And like, I've worked my whole life to do this. And it's like, that's the shit I get recognized for. But
literally, I still, from last basketball season, was watching the Texas Tech game. And when Patrick Mahomes, his wife, made a snotty face, and I was like, damn, poor Patrick. That's the most viral thing. I still, to this day,
really,
get Kansas City fans mad at me. And I'm like, really? This has millions and millions of views. And like, this is what I'm known for. Like, I'm supposedly like a hater. I'm like, I just said I felt bad for Patrick.
no, like I write stuff. I try to write blog, like, but
Yeah,
it's
I need to be
always,
better writing blogs.
no,
For
but it's
sure.
always like people are like, "Oh, you're that, that broad guy. You like to pick up." But it's so fun. I'm just
You're the
having a
broad
good time.
guy.
Yeah, it's just having a good time. I mean, I know I'm like a cat's meow when I go out. I get it, but like, it's all just having fun in the end. But I'd rather be known for other things, and I'm sure you would too. But even Kansas City fans hate that woman, I think, at this point.
No, not the ones in my. I
No?
have very angry women telling me that I'm a misogynist and all
Oh
this other
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Because I also tweeted like the day Tom came back, the day, like he wasn't even gone a month. I was like, damn, he's sick of Giselle's ass already. That was in February. Like I meant it.
Oh, I get it all the time. I get DMs like whenever I like see like a woman who's literally Sydney Sweeney has literally come out and said her grandparents told her she has a great rack, right? Okay. So whenever I see her, I tweet great rack.
So
I
weird.
get DMs, you fucking misogynistic piece of shit. Typical, it's like
now it's become a joke. So like
yeah, it's like
I listen, I try not to get offended by much. I do get a little pissy here and there because like, yeah, I was pissed when I was 0-2 in college football on Saturday, but like shut up. You're welcome for the college basketball winners. You're welcome for the NFL winner today. But like that's where I get pissy because I'm like, you know what? If you were that mad about 0-2 in college football, you should just unfollow me now.
that's
and
why
I shouldn't
you get people that say that though. Like if they belittle you for losing, first of all, you're never going to hear from them when you win. And I feel like the only people that I actually respect are people that do get shit for that because again, you know who I am. You're tracking me so hardly that you know what I'm doing. So you obviously respect what I'm doing a little bit. And I know deep down, like, do you think I'm actually, if I lose 2 games tonight, do you think I'm going to go to sleep and not sleep right?
Yeah.
And it's a game. That's how it goes.
I think that's the big thing. I actually saw one of the other comments was talking about doing like an action too. And I said that in action. I said, listen, you get to live to bet another day. Like if you do this correctly, you can live to bet another day. You do this wrong, you might be broke by the end of the week and getting a payday loan. Like,
yes.
So, but that's not my fault. All I can do, I can't make you press the send button. I can't tell you to cash out early. I can't tell you to do anything. I can tell you what I'm playing and how I'm playing it. Now, if you parlay all 5 of those together and it goes 4-1, that sounds like a you problem, not a me problem, man.
Right. And I didn't tell you to parlay it. I said I bet all these straight. I've been to many sports books, Philly area stuff. You go to these sports books, you go to Hollywood Casino, right? Penn National. You'll see 5 people in the line, 10-team parlay. And they come to me, what do you bet? No, just one game. One game, that's it. How are you going to make money doing that? I said,
because I think the thing is that they're all looking for that elusive home run hit, right? Which is why all the competing sports books to us post those tickets.
$20 to win 400,000.
Yeah. Like I like my $100 to win 8,500 made headline news around Las Vegas in 2013. Nobody would bat an eye now. Nobody would bat an eye because what we're seeing with these guys with parlaying first touchdown scorers with anytime touchdown scorers with over this, with under that, like these guys are throwing together like 25 team insane parlays for a couple bucks and hitting home runs. Like, bro, you should never bet again. You hit one of those, like, just be like, hey, thanks, gambling gods. Like, I'm retired.
No, I always liken it to like one of the first jobs I ever had was in like a bodega type of place. And you used to see these people come in. Hey, I had $100 lottery ticket. And I thought, oh, cool. Like, and I'm thinking, like, I seen you in here every day. You've sent at least 500, right? So what did you really win?
Lotto tickets.
Yeah, and it's like, so let's just say you do win like 100K on a bet, right? That's cool. It doesn't happen ever. It's not going to happen to you probably.
No.
And again, how much have you lost over the course of your career? And if you
it's like me with 50-50 tickets.
Yeah, right.
Like I hit one 50-50 ticket at a K-State basketball game, and now it's like just a thing, and it's The good news is my accountant lets me write it off on my taxes. It's a charitable expense. Otherwise, like, I know I'm not going to win, but it's fun. Every football game or basketball game I go to, it's like, okay, let's see. Let's throw a hundy on this. But I also think that that's a different type of understanding, if you will, right?
Well, plus, if you win, let's say you win 300,000 on a parlay, right, off a $20 bet. Okay,
I can't even fathom
you're not
that.
betting much to begin with. So what are you going to do? You're going to start betting way more on games. I always want to revisit some of these people. Where are they in 3 years? Right.
It's kind of like the lotto winners. Remember, there used to be documentaries on those people. I mean, my sister's mother-in-law, she won like a couple million one time in Blackhawk on a slot. Like she was doing some progressive slot. I bet that money was gone within the next year.
Yeah,
dumped right back in the machine.
You know, again, and that's, I think, for a lot of people, like the people that get into the very low levels of this and have real trouble, it all starts with winning, right? You have that win where you're a week or two, or maybe you win a lot of money, and then you go and within a week you've blown it all, and you're now down a certain amount. So yeah, you have to have control. I don't when I go to casinos, I don't play table game. I just do
Jeff,
what I got to do and leave.
Oh, yeah, right. I always sit down at a table game, but this is the difference between me and my friends. So we're in Vegas. We're about to go to Barry's, have a fat steak dinner. We got 20 minutes before our reservation. I'll sit right down. But the second, like, I win 3 in a row, pick up my chips. Cool. I just paid for the bottle of wine. Right. Roll some dice. Cool. Let's 7 out. We're leaving. All right, I'm out. Like, I don't need to go to the ATM. I don't need to reach in my pocket. Like, roulette's one of the worst games in the casino. But when Megan and I were at Hollywood and Kansas, she was like, let's play roulette. I'm like, all right, fuck it. Like, let's just throw one spin. We're about to walk out the door, 1 spin roulette, winner. And Spider had to do one more. And guess what? He lost. And I think that's the biggest thing, is being able to get up and walk away, right? We're not getting up and walking away from the sports betting business. We're betting this long term. We're trying to win long term in certain sports and other stuff. The rest of it's just entertainment. And if you don't treat it as such, you could get yourself in a world of hurt.
Well, my mother used to always call casinos dens of iniquity, and they really are. I mean, the worst parts of life are generally in them, right? You have bad people, you have scam artists, you have all these different people, right? And if I can take a business, some of these are literally buildings are made out of gold, right? The beautiful places, all this ritzy, glammy lights, all this stuff. Anytime I can go in and make money and leave, that's all I'm looking for. I'm not here to.
That's the interesting thing, is that people go in there. We were just talking about Bill Snyder, number 13. I got his book behind me. Expect to win. Every time I make a sports bet, I expect to win. When I play a table game, I don't expect to win. No. I know what my odds are. I know what my advantage is. I used to always play double deck blackjack at the El Cortez downtown Vegas, because they were one of the only ones that had it. And it would be a $10 table. So my friends could play $10. I could play up to 100 or whatever I wanted to play. And I actually could sit there and say, all right, no, you're going to stay here on your 16. You're going to split that. And I'm going to do this, like, where I could like actually control the table and play a little bit of what I like to call advantage blackjack. Not saying that I'm an advantage blackjack player, but I understand the math behind it. And I've had a couple people teach me it. They don't exist anymore. Anytime the casinos have an advantage, bye-bye. This game is not working out for us.
It don't matter who you
can't find a double deck table in Vegas. I guarantee it.
Right, because
I have not found one.
Got crushed on it and eventually are going to just fix it. Where, like Phil Ivey, for instance, prime example. Phil Ivey is one of the greatest gamblers in Las Vegas, right? Huge poker player. He was exploiting something with one of the casinos he was going to.
Yep.
It wasn't necessarily illegal. It was, he spotted something in a card. Okay. If that's me, I'm going to continue to exploit. It's not my job. You figure it out. You're the business. Yeah. Figure it out.
Well, like I said, they have to take all the bets. They can tell you that they don't want you to bet there anymore, whether it's blackjack or sports or roulette. If you can find an advantage, you're not going to be allowed in.
Right. And I'll literally let you find the disadvantage. If I'm not going to come out and be like, hey, that's not
Hey,
right.
let me tell you this. Now, don't get me wrong. If I see like a bad number or something that they're going to cancel anyway, like I'll text one of my bookmaker friends and be like, hey, you guys have this weird number up on your app. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks. But like, I've seen people get kicked out because they're like, here's your option. We can cancel your bet, or you can let it ride with the bad number, but you're no longer allowed to bet here. I mean,
Right. I'm not gonna. Right. I got you.
yeah.
Well, look, Kelly, great conversation as always. I wish we could have got you. Maybe we'll get you next week on a better card. I mean, this card
Yeah.
was not
We can
good.
figure it out. Thursdays are good usually. Mondays are good time-wise, but the card.
They're just a bad card.
Yeah, we'll find. There's going to be lots. We're going to be, elbow deep here in really good college basketball. Saturday was a great lineup. Megan and I are going to be back to do the spaces on Saturday, so hopefully you'll join us for that. So
Absolutely.
all I want from you every Saturday, just one winner, just one. That's
Gotcha.
it. We're going to see how that goes. See if we can't make everybody that's listening some money and kind of tag team the card, if you will.
As always, follow Kelly in Vegas on Twitter at Kelly in Vegas. Kelly, I will announce now before we wrap this up. I will be in the office tomorrow. And yes, I know there is a lot of hubbub around a certain handshake that's likely going to go down.
Okay.
It's not going to be a big deal for me. Look, it's been a long road.
Around here, or
What's
what are we doing? Are we calling a truce around here, or what are we doing?
Yeah, listen, as I said, I've been looking to do this for forever. This has been a long-standing issue that, I mean, look, I've never been related to Barstool with this not going on. I've been connected to Barstool since like 2018. It's time to end this. I'm happy about it. It's not that big a deal for me. I know people will make a big deal about it, but
that's a big thing, right? They want to make a big deal. That's what we are. We're a content company, and this is content. And I don't know even the backstory. I'll be really honest with you as to what was going on. And
not many do, but maybe you will at some point. And that's not my decision to make. Okay, I get that people are in precarious situations. He's got to get through some things on his own, and I'm not going to be the one to decide that. Right? It's not me.
Yeah.
I'm just willing to forgive and move on. I don't, care
absolutely.
Anymore.
It makes. I like to think we're all adults here in some capacity. Maybe I'm the least adult. I'm probably the oldest one, but the least adult of the group.
What are you, like 30? I mean,
somebody did say really nice things in the comment about my getting younger, and I'm like, thanks. It's the Botox you guys saw.
I mean,
in action.
honestly, yeah. I mean, I think that's if you can. I mean, I'm not saying you're aging, but if you can age the opposite way, that's the goal.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's makeup and Botox and extensions and drink lots of water. If you equal your water and your booze intake, yeah, you'll be just fine.
Contact these water companies. They can deliver water to you. I urge you to do that. It'll cost you a little bit of money, but you got to drink water. That's how
I'm such a psycho. I have a big one that's underneath the sink in both houses because it's that good of water for you. And yes, it helps.
Follow
that's
Kelly in
my
Vegas
PSA.
Because unlike me, she has 2 houses and she's obviously doing pretty well with this. So shout out to her. Follow her on Twitter at Kelly in Vegas. Hey, tell Murgis I said hello, please.
I will. We'll text you tonight. Like that's just super random. Now I'm going to make him tell fun stories all night at dinner.
He told me some fascinating things I never knew. So Kelly, good to see you. Hope you have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeff.
See ya. Kelly in Vegas, everybody. Go check her out on Twitter at Kelly in Vegas. That's the show, guys. You never know where those shows are going to go and where these shows are going to go. It's a good day for it, though, because in basketball, there's not a ton out there tonight. For me, I played a couple. I took Stonehill plus 17. I also like over 150. I got 157.5 in Oral Roberts, South Dakota State. I think that game gets into the 160s, possibly higher. Let's hope South Dakota State finds their offense. Quickly, what do you think about Maine, Akron? Lean under. Akron plays very slow. Maine may struggle to get to 50 in that one. I think it's a very low-scoring game. Didn't play it, though. Come down a little bit as well. If you're taking Maine at 12.5, you're not getting the best price. I also am probably going to take the Green Bay Packers tonight, but I have not decided on that just yet. As always, thank you for watching. I do want to let you guys know, this is a programming note. I will not be on the air tomorrow. Look, guys, I got to travel. I got to do things. And again, there's only so many trains I can get. So what I'm going to try to do, if I have some time, I'm going to jump on for 10 or 15 minutes, maybe around 3 o'clock. I'm going to try to figure it out. We'll do something. Maybe we'll do like a quick 10-minute kind of report as to what I'm looking at. But we'll be back here same time, same place Wednesday. I urge you. Also, I'm probably going to be on Pick Central tomorrow anyway. So I think that's kind of where we can talk about sports. So it's kind of redundant to do it twice. So, all right, guys, I'm out of here. You guys enjoy your day. Enjoy your night, and I will see you likely back here Wednesday. Everyone have a great night. See ya.